Okay, so this little video will give you a little idea, a breakdown of different ways of counting cells within Excel. We've covered before that Excel itself isn't the difficult bit. The difficult bit is deciding what exactly it is you want to do. So when we're talking about counting cells, we've got these different options. Here are a few of the most regularly used ones. Count, count A, Countif, and decount A. There are other ones as well, but I'm going to cover these ones off just now. They all have their own specific function, and each one is more relevant to the task depending on what it is you want to do. So in brief, the normal one count, that just counts all the non-empty cells that contain a number. It ignores all the blanks. So if you want to count numbers, that's grand. We need to remember the data types, the number, the text, because depending on what it is we want to do, it depends on which one we want to use. Count A, very similar, but that counts all the non-empty cells. So whether it's got numbers, text, it doesn't matter, it does that. And Countif, that counts all the cells based upon a condition. Now, we did cover a little bit on decount A as well. That again counts all the cells, but that's based on a criteria held somewhere else in the spreadsheet. So if you say, I want to find all the cells in a database that contain, and you have the word Smith somewhere in your database and you reference Smith, it'll go in and find that. But I'm going to go through each one using the example spreadsheet, which will be attached, and hopefully this will help. Okay, so to start with count, I'll go back to our data itself. I'm just going to use this spreadsheet here. So on here, if I want to just count how many respondents there are, I would need to pick one of these which has got numbers in it. If I'm going to use that one, it's called count. So if I do that here, and I'll do it underneath, and I'll put count numbers. And what I'll do is I'll widen that so you can see. Right. So in here, I'm going to count all these numbers. So as with all of them, starts with equals, count. In fact, what we'll do, let's get in the habit of using this little FX button here. We want to find count, so I'm just going to look for that. There we go. Oh, we want count. You can see all the different ones here. So count itself, and it just says what do we want to count. And as always, please get in the habit. Let's just use the mouse. Just drag down. We press OK, and it says there are 20 there. Just to confirm, if I do the same, but I do on this column here with 6 in it, so I'm going to go the same, FX button. I'm going to look for counts just there, so I've just used it. And this time I want to count there. It's the same number of rows. But when I now press OK, I'm going to get 0 because there's no numbers in there whatsoever. If I want to count text, I will widen that as well, so you can see that's all fine. On this one, if I go equals count A, drag that down. And give me 20 as well, because even though these are numbers, it doesn't matter. Count A counts everything. Now, on one of the assessment, it's asking you to count something specific within that column. And on this one, I'm going to count all the female and all the male. So with that one, because if we go back to the breakdown here, if I want to count something based upon a condition, we use Countif, because we want to count if any of those cells in there have the letter F in it. So I'll do it and I'll explain. So in this one here, in fact, I'll put it straight underneath. I'm going to count female. There we go. I'll wrap that. There we go. So on this one, back to the FX. Let's get in the habit of using that one. And this one we want to count if. because we're counting if it's got an F in it. So there we go. Oh. Count if. And we've got range and criteria. Range is just where we're looking. So we're not looking in anywhere apart from this column here. So we just select it. So what we've said is we want to go in there into that column of 6 and we want to count all the cells based upon a criteria. Remember I said a criteria is just like a filter. What do we want to filter it down to be? And in this case, we want to count it as F because that's the criteria. If I do that, count female, I've got 9. We'll do the same for male. We'll go counts male. Exactly the same steps. Click on the FX, count if, we've just used it. And the range is the same. We're going to look in there. The criteria in this case, of course, is M. And we get 11. And the reason that it's useful to count how many in total, it's always good to double check. So if you count how many there is in total, there's 20. And if you've only got 2 things, in this case, female and male, and those 2 numbers there add up to 20, you know you've done it right. So it's always worth double checking on that one. Now we did cover as well, if you remember a little bit, D count A. That would work if we had M and F over here somewhere and we said count it based on there. But the most straightforward way, if we know exactly what it is we're looking for and we're not going to be changing the criteria within that formula, is just to use Countif, and all we're doing, I'll put the formula on so you can see them all. There we go. Is we're just saying on that one, we're counting everything if it's a number. On that one, we're counting everything, whether it's a number or text. On this one, we're counting if it's got an F in it. And on that one, we're counting if it's got an M in it. Now, on the assessment, a couple of people did get the right answers, but they did it this way. So what they did first off was they sorted, and then they counted those cells. And if I do that, yes, again, I'm going to get 9, and then count those cells, I'm going to get 11. The only drawback of that is it's not future-proof. And by future-proof, I mean that if any of that data changes, so in other words, if this person here, instead of being a male becomes a female, your numbers aren't going to change because you've counted those cells that's got that text in. You've not forced it to only count the males. So the strongest way of counting all the females and all the males in there is count if, because then if any of those change, in fact, if I change that one to a male, press enter, the numbers update. If we simply count those cells and hope that nothing changes, it's not future-proof, it's not going to change. So when you're looking at doing the assessment, I would suggest you think carefully about whether count if, count A, or count is more specific based upon here, counting all the cells containing a number, all the non-empty cells, or whether count if, which counts all the cells based upon what it is you're looking for, is the most appropriate. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit. Work it through and we'll see, and we'll do these in little short videos. Thank you very much indeed.